My entire future, the one I'd meticulously planned for months, was shattered into a million pieces by one cold, cruel sentence, just 3 days before I was supposed to get down on one knee. The aroma of my signature carbonara usually filled our apartment with warmth, but that night, it was choked by an icy dread. Our perfect Christmas Eve, a proposal I'd orchestrated down to the last detail, dissolved into a nightmare, all because of him. I had a ring that cost me 2 months' salary, personalized gifts for her entire family, restaurant reservations at the place of our first date, both families coordinated to be there, a photographer hired. Everything. Everything felt perfect, or so I deluded myself. Looking back now, the red flags weren't just waving, they were screaming, and like an absolute idiot, I chose to ignore every single one. I'm Daniel, 28, and I work in project management for a tech company. I own my apartment, drive a Camaro I saved 3 years to buy. I'm the guy who plans everything, shows up early, remembers birthdays. My mom always ingrained in me, if you're going to do something, do it right, or don't do it at all. So, when I met Chloe 2 years ago at a friend's barbecue, I genuinely thought I'd hit the jackpot. She was beautiful, a confident marketing coordinator, loved trying new restaurants, and actually laughed at my jokes. We moved in together after 14 months, and I was convinced this was it. This was the person I'd build a life with. Her parents loved me. My family adored her. Everything just felt right. Then October hit, and things started to subtly shift. She spent more and more time glued to her phone, smiling at texts she wouldn't explain. She started coming home later from office happy hours. Her answers to my questions became short, distracted, not the actual conversations we used to have. The affection just dropped off. Less kissing, less cuddling during movies. When I tried to talk to her about it, she'd just brush me off, claiming she was just stressed about work. So I backed off, because who wants to be that paranoid, controlling boyfriend? Early November, she mentioned a new guy at her company named Marcus. It was casual at first. Something funny he said in a meeting. A lunch spot he recommended. But then the mentions grew more frequent, more enthusiastic. Marcus this, Marcus that, Marcus is so smart, Marcus is so funny. I felt this cold, tight knot in my stomach every time his name came up, but I forced it down. I absolutely refused to be the jealous guy who couldn't handle his girlfriend having male friends. Red flag number 1, completely missed. By mid-November, she was canceling our plans left and right. Movie night became her being too tired, scrolling through her phone while I watched TV alone. The anniversary dinner I'd meticulously planned got postponed because she had a work thing she couldn't miss. When I gave her the necklace I'd bought, she barely looked at it, mumbled "it's nice," and put it away without even trying it on. I kept telling myself she was just going through a rough patch and I needed to be supportive. December rolled around, and I was deep into proposal mode. I'd bought the ring back in September, a white gold band with a princess-cut diamond. I talked to her parents in October, and her dad actually teared up, giving me his blessing, telling me I was the son he'd always wanted. I'd coordinated with my brother for both families, booked the private room, called the photographer, even meticulously written out exactly what I was going to say. The plan was Christmas Eve dinner, then surprise her with the family gathering. I was so excited I could barely sleep. The gifts were my final touch, because I actually pay attention. Her dad wanted a nice journal for his morning writing, so I found a leather-bound one with his initials embossed. Her mom collected vintage cookbooks, and I tracked down 3 rare ones from the 50s. Her sister was graduating design school in May, so I got her a professional-grade sketch set. For Chloe, besides the necklace, I'd planned a weekend trip to a mountain cabin she'd shown me on Instagram months ago. Everything was wrapped and ready, sitting in my closet like ticking time bombs of my own impending stupidity. December 21st. 3 days before Christmas Eve. Chloe came home around 8, later than usual, buzzing with this weird, nervous energy. I was making pasta carbonara, her absolute favorite, and asked how her day was. She poured herself a glass of wine, drank half in one gulp, then said, "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. I mean, it plunged. I turned off the stove and sat down. She wouldn't look at me, just spun her wine glass in endless circles. Finally, she brought up Christmas Eve dinner, and I nodded, thinking maybe she wanted to adjust the time. Instead, she said she didn't think I should come. I just stared at her. Surely, I'd heard wrong. I asked what she meant, and she got defensive immediately. Said Marcus was going to be there, and it would just be awkward if I came too. I felt like I'd been sucker punched. Marcus. The coworker she wouldn't shut up about was going to my girlfriend's family Christmas, and I wasn't. I asked why her coworker was invited to family Christmas, and she said he went through a bad breakup and her mom felt sorry for him. Excuse me? She was choosing him over me, her boyfriend of 2 years, the guy who'd bought thoughtful gifts for her entire family? I asked point blank if something was going on with Marcus. She rolled her eyes, insisted they were just friends, but her voice had that telltale defensive edge. Then she dropped the real bomb. Said she was kind of doing me a favor. I asked what she meant, and she explained that she knew I'd been acting weird lately and had a feeling I might be planning to propose. And she didn't want to reject me in front of her whole family at Christmas. So, it was better if I just didn't come. The casual cruelty of it. The assumption that she already knew her answer was no. The fact that she cared more about her own potential embarrassment than my actual, human feelings. It all hit me at once, a tidal wave of ice-cold shock and fury. Something inside me just went cold. And calm. That terrifying, quiet calm when you're too incandescently angry to even yell. I stood up. I walked to the bedroom, grabbed the bag of wrapped gifts from my closet, walked back, and set them on the coffee table. I told her to take them back to her family, since I wouldn't be there. She looked utterly confused and tried to say something, but I held up my hand. Pack your stuff, I said, my voice flat. And get out. She tried to argue, said I was overreacting. It was just one dinner. As if this was about missing a meal and not about her choosing another man over me, then acting like she was doing me a favor. I told her she had 1 hour to pack and could get the rest later with a friend present. The ring box was burning a hole in my pocket, but I didn't say a word about it. She tried 3 more times to convince me I was making a huge mistake, that she really did love me and wasn't doing anything wrong. But I was done. I pulled out my phone and set a timer for 55 minutes. She left with 17 minutes to spare, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. I stood there in the silence, surrounded by Christmas decorations and wrapped gifts for a proposal that would never, ever happen. I called my best friend, Noah, and he immediately told me to come stay at his place. I grabbed some clothes and, yes, the gifts, because there was no way in hell she was getting those after what she'd pulled. I drove to Noah's apartment, the world feeling like it had tilted on its axis. Christmas Eve came, and I spent it playing video games and drinking beer instead of proposing to the woman I thought I'd marry. My phone was blowing up with texts from Chloe, begging to talk, saying she'd made a mistake. But I didn't respond. What was there even to say? Christmas morning, I got a text from her dad. He said they'd missed me yesterday, that Chloe told them we'd had a fight but wouldn't say what about, and that whatever happened, I'd always be family to them. Her mom texted the same thing. The text made me feel worse, because I genuinely loved her family, and now I'd lost them too. I texted both back, thanking them, and carefully explained that Chloe had uninvited me because she wanted to bring someone else, a coworker named Marcus, and that she'd admitted she would reject a proposal from me if I made one. I kept it factual, didn't trash talk their daughter. Her dad's response was just, "I'm so sorry, Daniel. She's made a terrible mistake." Her mom didn't respond at all, and I could only imagine the conversation happening in their house. Chloe's texts got more desperate after Christmas. Multiple messages a day, saying she'd ended things with Marcus, that it was never serious, that she loved me and wanted to fix things. But even if I believed she'd ended it with him, which I didn't, the damage was done. She'd shown me exactly who she was and what I was worth to her. You don't uninvite your boyfriend of 2 years to Christmas. You don't choose a coworker over your partner. You don't tell someone you'd reject their proposal and then expect to just walk it back. So, I kept ignoring her. I spent the rest of the holiday week at Noah's, trying not to think about the ring in my sock drawer and the future that had disintegrated in one brutal conversation. The texts didn't stop after New Year's. They got worse. More frequent. More unhinged. Chloe was calling me at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, letting it ring until voicemail, then calling again immediately. I'd silenced her number, but could still see notifications piling up when I woke. Dozens of missed calls and messages, cycling from apologetic to angry to sobbing to threatening and back again. Noah told me to block her, but I wanted documentation in case things escalated. Then she started showing up. My neighbor mentioned seeing her car across the street at 6 o'clock in the morning. Then at my coffee shop on Saturday, sitting in the corner, pretending to read, but watching me the whole time. Then outside my gym, waiting by my car. Every single time, I'd just turn around and walk away without a word. Wouldn't engage. Wouldn't give her any reaction. It drove her absolutely insane, which, honestly, gave me a perverse satisfaction after what she'd put me through. Her friends started a coordinated guilt campaign. Sarah sent this long message about how Chloe was crying every day, couldn't eat or sleep, and how I needed to give her closure. Emily called me directly and spent 20 minutes explaining how everyone deserves a second chance, and I was being cruel. I told Emily that Chloe had already gotten her second chance when I forgave those red flags. Her third when I didn't dump her the first time Marcus's name came up. Her fourth when she canceled our plans. And she burned through all her chances when she uninvited me to Christmas. Emily didn't have much to say after that. Meanwhile, I was doing better than I'd been in months. Turns out getting dumped right before your proposal either completely destroys you or intensely motivates you. And I decided on motivated. I signed up for a photography course I'd been putting off for years, something Chloe had always thought was a waste of money. Turns out I was pretty good at it. Had an eye for composition. I started spending weekends walking around the city, taking pictures, instead of watching Chloe scroll through her phone. I picked up extra projects at work and got noticed by upper management for a campaign that brought in a major client. My boss pulled me aside in late January and told me they were starting the process for a senior position, and I was their top candidate. I also bought a project bike, an old Harley that needed restoration. Working on it in Noah's garage on weekends was therapeutic, taking something broken and making it whole again. Noah joked I was using the bike as a metaphor for my own life, and he wasn't wrong. I started hitting the gym more consistently, too. Not for revenge body purposes, but because I needed to burn off energy in a productive way. Having goals that had nothing to do with relationships helped. Early February, I met Isabel. She was in my photography class, always early and prepared, always asked intelligent questions. We got paired for a project about urban landscapes and spent a Saturday walking around downtown, taking photos and talking. She was 27, worked as an architect, and had this calm, grounded confidence that was the complete opposite of Chloe's desperate need for constant validation. She liked planning, appreciated punctuality, valued consistency and honesty. We exchanged numbers for the project and started texting, and eventually she asked if I wanted to grab dinner after class. I was hesitant because it had only been 6 weeks since the Christmas disaster. But Noah convinced me to go. Said having dinner didn't mean I was proposing marriage. So I went, and it was easy. It was comfortable and fun in a way my relationship with Chloe hadn't been in months. Isabel actually listened when I talked, asked follow-up questions, shared stories without making everything about her. She paid for her half without any weird games. When I told her I'd recently gotten out of something serious and wasn't looking for anything heavy, she simply said she'd recently gotten out of something too and was happy to just see where things went. We started hanging out more, always casual and low pressure, photography walks on Sundays, coffee before class, dinner after long work days. She came to Noah's garage once to see the Harley and ended up spending 3 hours helping me sand the gas tank while we listened to music. She met Noah, and he gave me this look afterward that said, "She's good for you." I wasn't ready to call it dating yet, but it was something good. Something that made me realize how truly unhappy I'd actually been with Chloe. Chloe somehow found out about Isabel in early March, maybe through social media stalking or mutual friends. Suddenly, the desperate apology texts turned into accusations. She sent paragraphs about how I'd moved on so fast and clearly never really loved her and was probably cheating the whole time. The irony of her accusing me of cheating when she emotionally checked out for another man was not lost on me. I still didn't respond, just screenshotted everything and sent it to Noah, saying I was definitely making the right choice. Then came the party in late March. A mutual friend's birthday at a bar downtown. I'd RSVP'd weeks ago, before I knew Chloe would be there. I brought Isabel because we'd been seeing each other for over a month, and I wanted her to meet more of my friends. We walked in, and I immediately saw Chloe. Saw her see me. Saw her face go from surprised to hurt to furious when she realized I had someone with me. I introduced Isabel to people, kept my hand gently on her back, making it clear we were together without being obnoxious. Chloe spent the first hour glaring from across the bar, drinking too fast, talking too loud. I ignored her, focused on Isabel and our friends. Had a genuinely good time despite the weird energy. Then Chloe came over, drunk and swaying. Asked if she could talk to me privately. I said no. Whatever you have to say, you can say right here. She lost it. Started crying and yelling about how I'd thrown away 2 years like it meant nothing. How I'd replaced her so quickly. How Isabel wasn't even that pretty and clearly wasn't special. Isabel just stood there, calm as a lake, while Chloe spiraled. She didn't engage. Just let Chloe show everyone exactly who she really was. Our friend had to ask Chloe to leave because she was making an absolute scene. Chloe turned on him, said he was a terrible friend for taking my side, then grabbed her purse and stormed out, yelling that we'd all regret this. The bar went quiet for a minute, then conversation started up again. Isabel squeezed my hand and asked if I was okay. And I realized I actually was. Chloe's public meltdown had just proven to everyone, and to myself, that I'd made the right call. We stayed another hour, then left. On the drive back, Isabel said she'd understand if my ex being crazy was too much drama and I wanted to cool things off. I told her Chloe's issues were Chloe's problems and I wasn't going to let her chase away something good. Isabel smiled and just said okay then. But Chloe wasn't done, not even close. The party seemed to break something in her, because after that, the stalking got serious. And I started to realize this wasn't just a bitter ex being dramatic. This was someone genuinely unstable who wasn't going to stop until I made her stop. The week after the party, Chloe's behavior crossed from desperate into legitimately scary. She started showing up at my workplace, just sitting in the lobby until security asked her to leave. My coworkers noticed, and I had to have an embarrassing conversation with my boss, explaining my ex was having trouble accepting we'd broken up. He was understanding, but told me to let him know if it escalated because they took employee safety seriously. The fact that my career was being affected made me realize how far off the rails this had gone. She created fake Instagram accounts to follow me and Isabel. Multiple accounts with random names and no pictures. Liking old photos from months ago in the middle of the night. Isabel showed me the messages Chloe was sending from these accounts. Long, rambling paragraphs about how Isabel had stolen her life, how I was supposed to marry Chloe, how Isabel was just a rebound. Isabel handled it better than I would have. Just blocked each account and screenshotted everything. She told me her older sister had dealt with a stalker ex, and the most important thing was never to engage and to keep records for potential legal action. The flowers started in early April. Not romantic bouquets, but funeral arrangements left on my doorstep with cards saying things like, "For what we lost," or "Mourning what could have been." It was disturbing, this weird, dramatic gesture showing how completely Chloe had detached from reality. I photographed each arrangement with the cards, then threw them away. Added them to the growing evidence folder. My neighbor asked if someone had died, and I had to explain, no, just my ex being unhinged. Then Sarah started attacking Isabel online, posting comments on her Instagram, calling her a homewrecker. She wrote fake reviews on Isabel's architecture firm's page, claiming she was unprofessional, completely fabricated nonsense designed to damage her career. Isabel had to contact Instagram and the review sites to get it removed. Had to explain to her boss what was happening. That was the moment I decided I needed legal action. I contacted a lawyer Noah recommended, showed him the massive file of screenshots, photos, and documented incidents. He said I had more than enough for a restraining order and walked me through filing. We submitted paperwork in mid-April with a court date set for early May. Once Chloe was served with the temporary order, she'd have to stay at least 200 feet away from me, my home, and my workplace, and violations would have actual legal consequences. Chloe was served at her workplace on a Tuesday. I know because she immediately started blowing up my phone from different numbers, friends' phones, probably burner apps, calling over and over, demanding to know how I could do this. Each call went to voicemail, and I forwarded every single one to my lawyer as evidence. She left messages cycling through crying and apologizing and angry and threatening. The same emotional pattern, but now with legal consequences hanging over her head. The court hearing was May 3rd. I showed up with my lawyer, my evidence file, and Isabel, who wanted to testify about the harassment. Chloe showed up late, alone, clearly unprepared. The judge reviewed everything, looked through photos and screenshots, listened to some voicemails. Chloe tried to argue she was just trying to get closure, that I was being cruel by cutting her off, that she had a right to express her feelings. The judge shut that down quickly, explaining that showing up at someone's workplace repeatedly, creating fake accounts to harass their partner, and leaving funeral flowers went way beyond seeking closure and firmly into harassment and stalking. The permanent restraining order was granted, 3 years, no contact. She had to stay 200 feet away from me, my home, my workplace, and Isabel. Chloe started crying in the courtroom, saying this was unfair and I was ruining her life. The judge told her she'd ruined her own life by refusing to respect boundaries and that violations meant arrest. We left, and I felt this massive weight lift, like I could finally breathe properly. I thought that would be the end. The order was clear. Consequences were serious. Surely Chloe would finally get it. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, Saturday night around 11 o'clock, my apartment buzzer started ringing incessantly. I checked the camera and saw Chloe, clearly drunk, swaying and yelling into the intercom that she just needed to talk to me, that she loved me, that we were meant to be together. I immediately called the police and then Noah, who lived 15 minutes away. Noah got there first and used the intercom to tell Chloe the cops were coming and she was violating a restraining order and about to get arrested. She started screaming at him, calling him a traitor, saying he'd poisoned me against her. Police showed up 10 minutes later. I watched through my window as they talked to Chloe, as she gestured wildly, pointing at my apartment, as they eventually put cuffs on her when she refused to leave. She was arrested for violating the order, spent the night in jail, and went back to court the following week where the judge added penalties and extended the order. Even her mom, who'd been silent after I told them what happened back at Christmas, called afterward to apologize for her daughter's behavior. Her dad sounded exhausted and sad, and I almost felt bad for them, watching their daughter self-destruct. After the arrest, everything went quiet. No more texts, no more fake accounts, no more showing up places. Either jail scared her straight, or her parents convinced her to get help, or she just burned through all her energy. I didn't know and, frankly, I didn't care. I was just grateful it was finally over. Life moved forward. I got the promotion in June, the senior position my boss had been working on since winter. Isabel and I moved in together in July, found a great apartment with a spare room I turned into a photography studio. The Harley restoration finished in August, and I took Isabel on a weekend trip down the coast. We stopped at that mountain cabin, the one I'd originally booked for Chloe, and I realized how much better this was with someone who actually appreciated it, who actually cared. September came, and on a perfect Saturday at a park overlooking the city, I got down on one knee and asked Isabel to marry me. I'd kept the ring from before, had it cleaned and stored at Noah's place because the return period expired. And honestly, I just forgot about it until I knew I wanted to propose to Isabel. The ring wasn't the problem. Choosing the wrong person was. Isabel said yes immediately. No doubts, just pure, unadulterated joy about our future. We called our families, celebrated with Noah that night, and started planning a wedding for next summer. I never heard from Chloe again. Last I heard through mutual friends, she'd moved to another city for a fresh start, was in therapy, and had accepted responsibility for everything. I hope that was true for her sake. But mostly, I didn't think about her anymore, because my life had moved so far beyond that disaster. Sometimes people ask if I regret those 2 years or if I'm bitter about how it ended. Honestly, I'm not. Yeah, it sucked, and the stalking was terrifying. But if Chloe hadn't shown her true colors when she did, if she'd said yes to that proposal, I'd have married the wrong person and ended up divorced and miserable. Instead, I dodged a massive bullet, found someone infinitely better, and built the life I actually wanted. The ring meant for one person ended up on the hand of the right person. And that felt like the universe correcting a mistake before it was too late. Sometimes the worst things that happen end up being the best things that could have happened. You just can't see it until you're on the other side. If you've ever dodged a bullet you didn't even see coming, or found your silver lining in the storm, I want to hear about it. What's your take on my story? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more real-life journeys like this one.